Do you find yourself after eating a full meal feeling sleepy or have an intense craving for something sweet and you just need that taste of chocolate to finish it off? Or are you a woman whose hair is thinning on top but maybe seeing some facial hair? Or a man who's crying at the movies that never used to affect him, or maybe developing some male breast tissue? If so, there's a chance that you're suffering from insulin resistance. And not only does insulin resistance gender bend your hormones, but the research shows that it's also raising your risk for dementia or Alzheimer's, and no one wants that. So stick with me for this video and I'll explain what insulin resistance is, and I'll show you the link between insulin resistance and Alzheimer's. And I'll give you some really good tips on what you can do to hopefully get it reversed. I'm nutritionist and naturopath Sheridan Jenrick, and I want to congratulate you on taking the time out to join us for this program. As they say, knowledge is power, and if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. And for this month's nutrition topic, you've guessed it, we're talking about blood sugar and the importance of a low sugar lifestyle for brain health. By far and away, the most influential lifestyle choice as it relates to our health are our food choices. But it does also include other important factors like attitude, mobility, and environment, including toxins and stress. You see, a high carb, high sugar diet consistently raises blood sugar levels, which in turn require the body to secrete high levels of insulin to lower your blood sugar. Eventually, these insulin surges exhaust the body's cells, which then refuse entry to insulin, causing what is known as insulin resistance. So as you see, insulin resistance is brought on by the high blood sugar as it rises from eating high sweet, like sweets in the diet, soft drinks, starchy foods like bread, pasta, rice, corn, potato, and most cereals, packaged foods completely in general. Quickly, they break down into sugar and enter the bloodstream too fast for the body to safely handle them. It's a habit of overeating that brings this about and living a sedentary lifestyle. There's a definite link between this and Alzheimer's disease. You see, insulin resistance has long been linked with many common conditions: obesity, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, and hormonal imbalances. But more recently, researchers have shown that it also increases the risk of dementia and Alzheimer's. In fact, the link is so strong that some researchers are calling Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes. You see, insulin is required for proper brain function. Appropriate levels of insulin help the body regulate glucose in the brain and sustain mental energy. In turn, this regulates inflammation and helps produce brain chemicals that regulate your mood. But insulin does more than regulate blood sugar in the body. The insulin surges and the insulin resistance that result from sugary, high carbohydrate diets raise inflammation, and this disrupts your brain's ability to perform even the simplest of operations. I've experienced this myself, and don't we see it in kids when they get wired on cordial and lollies? You see, for many people, insulin resistance eventually becomes type 2 diabetes. So quite honestly, it's something we need to pay attention to now and don't wait until it's too late. The good news is both insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes can be reversed by improving diet and lifestyle. While a low-carb diet has been shown to be beneficial for those with dementia and Alzheimer's, it's also key to prevention. So here are some statistics for you. If you live to be 85 years old and do nothing to change your risk for brain disease, you have a 50-50 chance of developing Alzheimer's. And if you're a type 2 diabetic, that risk is doubled. Right now, pre-diabetes affects nearly 1 in 4 Australians over 25. And one person in Australia is diagnosed every 5 minutes, while many remain underdiagnosed for every one diagnosed. If left untreated, it can develop into type 2 diabetes within 5 to 10 years. But it's not all bad. As I said, the majority of cases, type 2 diabetes can be prevented, delayed, and even put into remission with a healthy diet, active lifestyle, weight loss, and careful management. The key here is early detection of many blood sugar regulation issues and a diet, as I said, that can keep the blood sugar levels outside of the optimal range. Believe it or not, once you break the sugar habit, you'll begin to taste the sweet flavors of vegetables, nuts, and whole grains, and you won't feel deprived. In fact, many of the mood swings and emotional ups and downs are due to a rise and fall of blood sugar. So breaking this habit actually frees you from the roller coaster ride of highs and lows and delivers a more stable, calm, and naturally joyful experience of life. So here are my 6 steps to sweet freedom. First of all, increase the greens in your diet. Look at your plate, and aside from ideally 50% greens, is there a good quality protein source, maybe a whole grain or a starchy vegetable, and a little bit of healthy fat? Maybe you'd like to know that the gorilla, who has a very similar digestive system to us, eats half its weight in veggies every day. And ideally, you should choose organic or non-GMO foods where possible. Also, you might want to include a small amount of lacto-fermented foods like sauerkraut, raw sauerkraut, miso or tempeh, maybe some pickled vegetables that could be beneficial for your gut bacteria to multiply. My second tip or second step is to make sure include all 6 tastes in each meal. Now, according to traditional Indian medicine, otherwise known as Ayurvedic medicine, there are 6 tastes which should be eaten at every meal. They say a balanced meal should be determined by the inclusion of these 6 tastes. We've got sweet, sour, and salty, which obviously our culture loves, and bitter, pungent, or astringent should be included there as well. So according to Ayurveda, eating excess amounts of sweet, sour, and salty foods actually are directly linked to weight gain, swelling, and heart health issues and more. But when you get your sweet taste from starchy vegetables or brown rice, for example, unlike fruits, then their sweetness is in the form of glucose rather than fructose. And glucose is more readily absorbed form and available for the energy in the body rather than fructose, which when fructose is taken with other foods, will actually store in the liver as fat for later use. So it's best to eat your fruits if you're going to eat them on their own or with a little bit of fat. Number 3, to avoid processed foods and soft drinks, including juices. So the hidden sugars and starches are everywhere. This includes limiting dried fruit, which is just really concentrated sugar. It's best to have the water content with it. So fresh foods usually last just a few days, while processed foods last weeks or even months in the cupboard or fridge. That's a good way to see how good it is for your body. Number 4 is to limit the intake of so-called natural sweeteners like honey, maple syrup, which are probably more nutritious, definitely, than refined white sugar. But they still pose a significant threat to the health and stability of your blood sugar if taken too often or in too large quantities. So number 5 is read labels. If you don't recognize an ingredient on a package or something as being natural, then it's best to skip it, and especially lots of numbers on packages. There are additives and preservatives. Number 6, we've got test your blood sugar regularly at home with a glucometer. So you should check your blood sugar about an hour after each meal and test again about 2 hours after to show your glycemic recovery. That's how well you've recovered from that meal as well. So based on these results, you can decide whether it's okay for you to indulge once in a while, if your body's handling it okay, or if you're best to stay away from the sweet stuff, even dark chocolate entirely or not, which dark chocolate's usually better than lollies and juices even. Now, understand there's a lot of information here and you may not want to take on board all of these suggestions right away. So it's a process of gradually changing our habits. And even if you only take on a couple of suggestions right now that you find useful, then that's great.